Welcome to the inaugural CaneSport Postgame Show presented by CanesWear. I'm Dave Lamont. Bruce Warner is joining me. Gary Ferman from CaneSport, the man, the myth, the legend behind the website, CaneSport.com, is at the game and is probably on his way to the Mario Cristobal postgame press conference. The Cristobal era begins with a 70-13 win over Bethune Cookman. But I got to be honest, those of you who decide to call in today, and we hope you do, and I'll give you the number right now. It's 563-999-3550. 563-999-3550. And if I was smart, Bruce just try to type up something and put it on a crawl across screen. We hope to hear from former Hurricane Chad Wilson during our time on the air. But Bruce, we've been around this program and around radio and all that for a long time. It's going to be hard to complain after a game like today.
Yeah, well, 70-13 is kind of what we both thought. It was not going to be a close game. It wasn't a close game, but you could see in the post game as Mario was leaving the field and he talked to the female reporter on the sidelines, he wasn't thrilled. He knows there's things that have to be worked on. I'm also looking at CaneSport while I'm watching the game, and the comments are complaining about the defense. It's the worst one we've ever had. That's not true. But, and I said on the show with Lamont, what happened, man?
Wait. The worst one they've ever had.
Somebody said that. Somebody said it on the CaneSport. So anyway, I said the other day, I'm concerned about these guys playing. They've never played together, and it showed in the first half. But they have a lot of work to do. But they won 70-13. Jake Garcia looked great. Van Dyke looked great. The running game looked great. The offensive line was really good, and the receivers didn't drop balls. So all in all, it was a heck of a game. But I don't take much from it. I take effort from it. I take their physicality, which is what Mario wanted all along. Gang tackling, although in the first half, I think acknowledged there were some blown tackles and some bad angles again, which that's what they were also talking about on CaneSport. But that all got cleaned up at halftime. And I'm happy they won. Mario's here, and it's only going to get better.
I guess I underestimated the negativity of people, and that's unusual for a guy like me. But I find very little to bitch about. I really do. Tackling is not what it used to be in college football because of the de-emphasis, although this was a physical time that when Cristobal came in, they definitely were physically. That's been talked about ad nauseum. So I think that I'm with you on that. That will get fixed. And what you're seeing here is, and I question, is it better to start with Bethune, or is it better to do what Florida and Utah are about to do, or just kicking off, open with a tough team? I don't even count it last week, but having LSU come up second, is it better to start that way? I'm beginning to think after watching today with a new and a new mentality and all that, it is better to start softer and work your way up. Now, next week's opponent, Southern Miss, should be better. The Sun Belt is a respectable league. And then you make the big trip to College Station. But, yeah, I suppose tackling could be better. They had trouble with crossing routes. And that, if that's Bethune, is A&M going to do to them with that? But then there's time to get that fixed. The big no major injuries.
Right.
And I actually thought they threw the ball more than I expected to see in the second quarter in particular. I really thought that we are going to muscle on you. But you know what? They did anyway. Parrish and Franklin could be potentially a thunder and lightning duo for this program, because I think it's everybody's new favorite because of the way he runs, that compact body. He's quicker than he looks. Almost, I don't know. Tony Page doesn't quite, I'm thinking of the former Dolphin Tony Page, who was more compact. I think Franklin's a little quicker, has beautiful feet. Man, his foot's spectacular. So I want the running game back. And I loved that idea, especially early, of establishing it. And the special teams, again, admittedly, I'm sure Bethune they don't have the depth. They're running out some regulars on special teams because they have no choice. But you had to be absolutely, with Keyshawn and his run backs, including the one that was nearly a touchdown, which they correctly ruled out of. That is some stuff to be very, very happy about.
Yeah, and I'm happy about all of that as well. It's a win. There weren't major injuries. I agree with you on that. Let Mario deal with whatever he thinks they did wrong. I'm sure that Kinchins is never going to spike the ball again because he got chewed out big time in front of his teammates on the sideline as he was sitting there. So all in all, a great win, a great start for this program. I'm glad that CanesWear is involved in this. I went there this morning because I got this CanesWear T-shirt for our show. I got yours in the car.
You did?
The place is mobbed. They were jammed in the inside, and they were lines out the door. So I'm happy for Brett. I'm happy to be doing this on behalf, sponsored by CanesWear, along with CaneSport, you, Gary, and myself, to bring us every week after these games. And I think that if you're asking me about the beginning of the season, yeah, we're better off. We're better off doing it like this because we got smoked by Alabama. We got smoked by LSU and Texas a couple of years ago. They don't need to do that anymore. They used to play Florida State early in the season, and the team that lost was like, this is the best thing for this team because Mario just got here. And next week is the next good thing. Texas A&M today, but they only played part of the game, right? Because the game was
delayed. They ended up finishing it. Yeah, they won that game 31-0.
Okay,
I'm sure their fans aren't going to be satisfied with that. That is an area, and we'll talk more about A&M down the road. But just briefly, there was a great article, I think it was in The Athletic, about the hungriest fan bases, and in the top 10 were the Canes and Texas A&M. They went 8-4 last year, and they weren't happy about it. So, and there's a lot of pressure on Jimbo because of what's happening with the SEC, and it's how it's become a two-team race with Alabama and Georgia. Somebody else has got to get in there. Georgia today insanely beats the crap out of Oregon, and Alabama will undoubtedly win there. So just looking, we're looking for calls. We'll also see some comments on StreamYard. Our call-in number is 563-999-3550. This is the only place you can do an immediate call-in show. Your reactions as you're leaving the stadium, pulling into your driveway. Maybe you took off a little early. That's okay. I understand it's the kind of game where you can do that. The announced number of attendance is over 1,000. I don't know if there were that many fannies and seats, but the number is encouraging. 563-999-3550. Bruce, you can start some in the comments section on StreamYard, and everybody seems to be pretty happy. I'm right with Christopher Wright, who taught the special teams is the thing he took the most about it. You're great in the kicking game. You got a stud punter. Did Headley even see the? I don't think he did.
He only caught the snaps on the field goal. And the extra points. There were no field goals. 10 touchdowns.
Yeah. There's no need for that. And the touchbacks. There's nothing more fun than that. Than your team taking the stuffing out of somebody. Whereas we mentioned already the danger of the return game for Miami early on, at least. Again, yes, it's Bethune. First kick return, frankly, there was a missed block in the back. The officials didn't catch that one. But I don't know. I'm pretty – I am, the line of scrimmage, Thomas Curry mentioning the emphasis on physicality. I enjoyed the mixture of defenses. As we thought early, very early, they were a touch passive. And then they had enough of that and started blitzing, sending more guys. And the other thing, Bruce, and we both know this, having been around the sport a long time, your first game, both teams, Bethune too now, not just Miami. When you have a game like this, it's not a conference game. It's not Notre Dame, Ohio State. It's we're going to keep a few the saddlebag. And we may not whip out a few things against Southern Miss. We might throw one or two things out that we didn't use because we want to clog up the Texas A&M mind. Them will doing the same thing. You always hide a little when you have a mismatch like this.
Yeah. I didn't see. I don't know if you did. Did you see any sweeps, like toss sweeps? We ran almost in between the tackles the entire game. Every once in a while, somebody had to get to the outside. Yeah, he just ran.
Or you had a reverse. I remember one reverse.
One reverse, discard. One reverse, discard.
No, I don't remember deliberate runs. I think you bounce them outside. That's different. Van Dyke was solid. I can't complain about no sacks for Bethune today. You got Garcia in a little bit. You got, I mean, everything was just set up for this to be good. As far as Cristobal's postgame comments, and I'm sure Gary will, when he joins us in a little bit, will say some of the same things that you've said. No, of course, Mario is never going to stand there at the end of his first game if they won this 700-13 and go, God, we got nothing to do before Southern Miss. Of course, he's not going to say that.
He's probably
he's going to say the same thing because coaches love to be unhappy. They're good at it. Even the great ones or the potentially great ones. They have to constantly find things. And that's good coaching. If you sit back yourself on the back for more than 10 minutes after a win, then you're not thinking ahead what has to be done to fix things, knowing that your competition is good. And I think Mario might know that this could be a team that can win this, at least a division, if not everything, at least win the division. You look at North Carolina today. Holy crap. 61 points they gave up. And that game could still be going on if there were made or after they could have beat them. NC State, now that East Carolina game is a huge rivalry game, particularly for East Carolina. So I wasn't surprised. Close. There's nothing more than East Carolina loves to do. Bother the people in Raleigh who are just down the road from them. I don't take much away. You look at the rest of the ACC today. What BC got beat by Rutgers.
Yeah,
that ain't good. Although at least somewhat respectable now. Yeah. That's not quite the joke they were before. Now we do have actually Thomas Kerr. The that I can think of, as it was caught. Now we have a comment here, and again, this is a call-in show. We'll read your comments, but we also want to actually hear. And I do believe, unless I hit the wrong button, I will offer up. No, I have hit the right buttons. Now 563-999-3550. 563-999-3550. Flag and Ivy can't be in the field. We gave up 13 points. Not satisfied with that, and 400 yards of offense. Solid effort. Let me look at the stats. Because
I saw Jake was 13 for 16, 193 and 2 touchdowns. But at least 2 of those throws he threw away.
Oh, no, he had to. Yeah, those are plays that he strung along. Bethune had 342 total yards, 249 in the air, and a lot of that was yard catch. Right. That, especially, again, those little crossing routes with number 8, who could have actually in level could be a very dangerous player for Bethune. I'm sure the other defenses, coaches, are going to look at him and go, okay, there's the problem. Miami had 582.
Wow, sometimes when you play a crappy team, they make you look bad. And this team had so many penalties against them. Like every 2 seconds, it was another time, another yellow flag. It was. I didn't really like that. It was just too many calls. Let them play already, But they make you look bad, and they still poured up 70 points. Listen, I'm pleased with that.
Well, you know who's going to look good?
What?
Let's bring Chad Wilson in.
Hey,
and I'm going to. There he is. Here's what I'm going to do, Bruce, because just for those of you right now, I'm kind of doing this. So, Bruce, Chad, first off, taking time. And we are so grateful that you took some time to join your fellow alums. Bruce and Chad, take a minute or two here. I want to type phone number and get it to see if I can put it on the crawl underneath so folks can go ahead and try to call in. So,
okay.
All right, Chad, your takeaways. We've blathered on for about 10 minutes or so. What did you see there?
Yeah, listen, this is what it's supposed to look like when you face an opponent like this. We've had games like this over the last few years where it seemed like a really big struggle and the game was in the balance come the second half. And so I think for fans in attendance today, this is kind of what they want to see when an opponent like this shows up. You want to show that you're dominant. Yes, we know it's Bethune Cookman. They should be on Miami's level, and we went out and made that so. And when when this thing's running right, this is one of the things that you look at. Do you we had an old saying that I think it came up when I was in Little League. It was, beat a gnat with a sledgehammer. And so that's what they went out and did today. But
that's what your Little League coach taught you?
Kill a gnat with a sledgehammer. It's exactly what happened today. And that's what you want to see, especially in this first game out. And to hit on a point that you guys brought up, would you rather do this? Would you rather start off with a Bethune Cookman or do what Billy Napier's doing and start off with a Utah? I think you'd much rather do this, especially if you're coming in, as a new coach with a program. You want to ease in this way. You want to get some things sorted out. And to Mario's point, because like I was saying, as the coach in me says, I saw things that need to be sewed up and taken care of. I didn't see penetration out of the defensive line. I would love to see more of that. I know when things are running right, we get that. We play on the other side of the line of scrimmage. I didn't see that today. Obviously, in that first drive, we had some problems lining up, which is to be expected, and you got a new defensive system. I mean, lining up was not a thing to do last year on this defense. You kind of just went and came from everywhere, and we were full of gimmicks and tricks and blitzes. And so it was good to see a structured defense and something based on fundamentals, even though, here and there, some of the fundamentals didn't come together. So it's good to see that.
I thought the offense looked even better than I expected because all fall camp, all we heard was the defense is dominating. If this defense dominated those guys, where were they today? But I agree with you. Because the D tackles are not the D tackles that we've had in the past. It seems like there's 10 defensive linemen. They're all relatively the same. I want to see pressure up front from the two guys in the middle. I didn't see that. I saw guys coming off the edge, but I didn't see. They had to blitz the linebackers to get pressure up the middle. Your comments about that?
Yeah, we know the history of defensive tackles at the University of Miami, and I think, we kind of got to be careful about comparing this team and these players from this era to eras in the past, because that's not always that fair, but you would like to see more penetration in the interior. Maybe we get to that point. I have all the confidence in the world with Kevin Steele and Charlie Strong. The two guys are really putting this defense together. Just where I didn't see that in the outset. I'm sure that's something that they're going to work on moving ahead. You're going to need that against a Texas A&M who's very good at running the ball and controlling the line of scrimmage. I think on the offensive side, I didn't really see a whole lot of push up front either. Though the running backs had a great day, there was a lot of individualism with them there. Some holes were opened up inside, but I didn't see the push on the line of scrimmage that you'd like to see against a Bethune Cookman. And when you're playing a Bethune Cookman, the only place that they can really match you is out on the edges. And I definitely know this as a guy that came from Long Beach State and actually played against Miami before I came here. We were more of a match on the outside. We had professional football players on the edges, just in the trenches. We weren't going to match up there. And you should see more of a match up there in the interior on the offensive line. We didn't really see that today. So that's something to work towards, just to name a couple of them. We're also going to have a Southern Miss after that.
There was not a lot of our offensive line.
Chet, I think that
was more walking downfield.
Yeah. Dave, you had a question?
Chad, I was going to ask, did anything surprise you, good or bad? Something I didn't expect that was awesome, or God, I didn't expect that was horrible.
I thought the secondary would play better. I thought we'd get better play out of the corner position. So that surprised me a little bit, going on the negative side. On the positive side, I don't want to say I'm surprised by this, but I'm really, really excited about what I see out of the backfield. it's, everyone knows this is our deepest position. We're missing Jalen Knighton, and we still look like monsters here. Even the guys that came off the bench late in the game seem to be really, really outstanding back. So we're going to be good there for a while. So that was really great to see. And then the return game. I mean, if we're going to get those kind of returns and that kind of field position, is definitely going to help us all year long. So I wasn't sure what to expect there. I was pleasantly surprised by that. We've not been huge in kickoff returns in the recent past, so I think that's a definite weapon for us, and
that was really
would be
good.
Great help coming down the road.
I also heard all off season they're going to use 22 as a short yardage back, but Franklin is not just a short yardage back. He's a workhorse. He's good. I would not use him as just a short yardage. He's soft.
No, I think they're a great combo, a great thunder and lightning type of combo. Parrish gives you all the shifty moves. He can run inside also, but after he's worn the defense down side to side, you could bring Franklin in there to pound the defense, and he's going to crank out the yards too. So I like what they both, how they feed off of each other and how they can attack the defense in different ways. If you're a defense trying to match up against Parrish, if you have those guys in the game and Franklin comes in, well, now they don't match up against Franklin. It's going to be hard to get them to the ground. So just something extra for a defensive coordinator to think about and preparing for the game is just having the right guys on the field, and that can be a headache.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm with you, Bruce. I thought today from Chad Franklin, admittedly against a weaker defense and a team that doesn't have any kind of the depth that any ACC team does, even Duke. I think he's bought himself some more playing time because of his style. He's no fun. If you see him coming, you now know what you're in for. There's a very powerful lower body. And Chad, before you joined us, I mentioned I thought his footwork is outstanding. He's got quick feet, shifty feet, very hard to knock off. I think today, out of all of the guys on offense, he might have bought himself the most playing time down the road.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And the analyst, I'm not sure who was the color analyst on the game today. He was very knowledgeable, former Florida State offensive lineman. I didn't catch his name, but he kept making comparisons to Donnell Bennett. And as someone who had to deal with Donnell in practice, that's, like you said, Dave, no fun having to deal with that, especially, guys in the secondary. If he's going to break through that front seven, it's just it wears down on you having to keep running into a guy like that. And that's really how he comes off. He can run tough behind the pads. And then if you're getting a full head of steam at him, he's got enough footwork to sidestep you and make you miss, which is cool. He's a little mixed between Larry Jones and Donnell Bennett. Larry Jones was a guy with a little more footwork than Donnell, but Donnell would just hammer you. So he's a nice combination of those two guys.
Yeah, I thought he was going to say Stephen McGuire, but Stephen didn't really have any moves. He's just trucked you. That's all he did.
Yeah, Steve was he was a steamroller. He was a train on the tracks.
Yes, he was.
So was Alonzo Highsmith.
That too, yes.
Yeah, so was Alonzo Highsmith. Yeah, but we didn't see the passing game out of the backfield, which I know we're going to have to beat Texas A&M, and that's obviously where the Rooster's going to be. He's going to be. They'll have the 1-2 punch of Parrish and Franklin, and the Rooster will get some runs, but he'll catch out of the backfield, and he's great in the open field. I like the fact that they hyped the receivers this week, and they actually caught the balls. Ladson caught balls. Redding had a great catch in the end zone. But what's he laughing at?
That they actually caught the ball. I think that's what he's laughing at. But
okay, well, he has the
drop.
I like the poise out of Van Dyke.
Look at the comments.
He just gotten on the scene last year, and there's been a tremendous amount of praise for him in the offseason. And sometimes, a guy can't handle that, but he looked he had the look of a commander out there on the field, poised. His efficiency was great, as you guys mentioned. A couple of incompletions that he had, I think, the majority of them was just get rid of the ball and not make a silly play. So, I really like the way that he looked. I would have liked to have seen another receiver develop or become a threat today, other than Restrepo, his roommate. It'd been nice to see someone else get involved. But if it wasn't their game, if it was, Restrepo's game, then that's what it is. and maybe someone else, is the focal point against Southern Miss, as people try to clamp down on number 7.
Right. Well, they had Brinson caught a ball.
Well, you mentioned Restrepo.
Brinson caught a ball.
I've got 10 different receivers with a catch. Restrepo 5 for 100 was clearly the main target. I mean, he had a quiet day for Mallory, just glitches, but we know who he is. It's not like he has to audition for playing time, or defensive coaches know who he is. Redding down on. I was a little bit surprised. I know, we all know they reviewed that looked close. If I was a Bethune guy, I'd be a little bit disappointed in that ruling that it was a touchdown. He made a coming across the middle and a perfect throw. I think Van Dyke is off even the slightest bit with that throw. That could have been picked or at least knocked away. A couple comments, if you guys are able to see them. We have T-Love 42, doesn't see any difference makers, Chad, yet on the defense. Who would you look to as potential difference makers as we go on through this season?
Leonard Taylor. Obviously, I got really scared when he went down, because I know that's very important to have that player in the middle of the defense. So I would look to him first. I do like the way the linebackers looked. I've got to be honest with you. I turned off a couple of games last year just on watching linebacker play. I'm a defensive guy. I like to see good defense, and I like to see my school play good defense, and just the linebacker play upset me last year. So it was good to see some structure back there, some fundamentals, some reading your keys and getting to the football instead of just shooting the gap because, hey, it's open, and then, running back runs out the other end and he gets a big play. So, we got a big play out of Williams at safety, got an interception there, and I'm sure the corners will come around. We're going to need that if we're going to do what it is people want to see us do this year. They'll have to play better there. I'm sure they would say that as well if they were asked. They wouldn't be happy with their situation there. But I would start with Leonard Taylor if I'm looking for a guy that's going to be a difference maker on defense. And for the person that made that comment, maybe you're right about that, but it's a brand new defense. So, it'll take some time for guys to kind of figure out where they need to be, and then you'll see things come. You'll see things come around.
Well, as a defensive guy, when you have a quarterback,
all right, hang on here, both of you, just a second here. Well, yeah, I know we're having like delay. What I want to do is we have somebody on hold. You need to press when you call. You need to press 1. So if you press 1, and that puts you in, we know you're ready to go. So please do that. We also want to take 30 seconds here, assuming that I can hit the right button and hear from our player. So along with Bruce Warner and former Hurricane DB Chad Wilson, I'm Dave Lamont. We'll get to a call. And also, we appreciate your comments in the StreamYard section as well. Let's do this. Here's a word from our sponsor, CanesWear.
Welcome to CanesWear.
All right.
Well, we got that part in.
Let's see. Sure. Well, I've never played a commercial, so
Welcome to CanesWear. Family owned and operated since 2010, CanesWear has all the latest merchandise for the Miami Hurricanes, Miami Dolphins, Inter Miami Soccer, and more. Come visit us at our store in Davie on University Drive, just south of I-595, or online at CanesWear.com. CanesWear, the spot Miami fans shop.
There you go. It just takes time. Who says I can't be technical? All right, let's give this a shot. Let's see, the 954 caller, you are going to be, can you hear us all right? There we go. You should be on.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
I can't hear him.
Go ahead.
Good evening. Great game.
I can't hear him.
It's hard to just rejoice. Look at a few things. What happened to the Rooster? Where was he today?
Rooster warmed up. He warmed up. He decided he warmed up another week. He got a little banged up in the last week, so he did warm up, but they said, no, we'll shut you down. You'll play next week. He'll be back next week.
Fair enough. Did not hear it on the podcast. I appreciate that. Looking forward to seeing him out there on the field. I agree with you guys. The running backs looked really sharp and quick, strong. We'll see how that plays out against some stronger teams. So I will tell you, man, like you said, Tyler Van Dyke came out. He almost looked like a surgeon, effortless. His passes had touch. They had velocity. So I think the whole fan base was really impressed with Tyler Van Dyke's play. Again, effortless. So it's amazing to have a quarterback, a field general on the Hurricane side we haven't had in quite some time. And then I'll tell you what, Jake comes in and he's 8 for 8, 2 drives in a row, 4 for 4, scoring drives. So they're supposed to do. Yeah, the defense could have stepped up more and stopped some of those explosive plays. But all in all, it was a good game, and excited to see how this season folds out.
I appreciate your call. Thank you so very much. And the call is on the calling number 563-99-3550. We will hear from the founder of CaneSport, Gary Ferman. In a few minutes, Gary will be calling on his way home. He's doing some press conference duties right now. So he will be joining us as well, along with Chad Wilson, our guest, and Bruce Warner, and you. A couple of complaints still about the defense, Chad, about maybe a lack of pressure, which Bruce had talked about before you came on, and you've mentioned it as well, defensively, that the pressure not coming up the gut as much as you'd like. What about, you talked about linebacker play being better. What did you like about the secondary? You touched on it briefly a little bit, but take us through what you saw out of that secondary that you liked.
The safety play, there was good coverage in safety play. I did see some times where the safeties were taken out of the box and had to cover outside, notably in the red zone. And they did a pretty good job there handling that assignment, coming up and making tackles, though some tackles were missed. That's something that's kind of normal early on. And Dave, you touched on it. It's a different game. Certainly even from the time that I played, and I'm not from the World War II era, but there was obviously
neither am I. Hold on a second.
I'm not saying anyone here is, but football has changed a lot over the last 2 decades. They've made it a safer game, and in the process of doing that, you can't do as much with hitting in practice. So early on, you kind of expect that kind of stuff. If it's lingering on into weeks 3 and 4, then I think we have a serious thing that we have to address. I'm sure that's one of the things that Mario is going to touch on this week and that they're going to focus on. I think, the staff is, though they will be joyed in the win 70-13, they realize that, next week is a little bit of a harder game. And then, 2 weeks from now, you've got a real game in a real place. And so you're going to need to be able to tackle. But I liked, those two things that I saw out of the secondary. And we did eventually end up getting pressure, but we needed a blitz to do it. And we started running some games up front, twisting guys. And, against this particular opponent, you'd just like to see some straight up one-on-one penetration causing, problems back there, because you don't want to have to rely on blitzing and stunts and all that kind of stuff to get that done.
When you have a team that doesn't have a great quarterback, they had like 3 or 4. One kid was pretty good. When you know that as in the secondary, it's got to be tough because they really don't have a downfield passing game. They got Stevenson once on that long pass on the sideline. Other than that, it was just a lot of dink and dunk and a lot of slants and some crossing routes.
Yeah, and that those things may work because of the type of defense maybe that was being run, some zones where you're a little bit looser and so on and so forth. Just like on offense, you're not trying to really empty everything out for other teams to see. They may have been vanilla defensively, so that could have been, part of it. But, again, if we're going to be vanilla in the secondary, you do want to see a little more pressure from the guys up front, just to cause some problems as you play coverage back there. You just like to see that. I'm sure it's like I said, you hear the names that are on the defensive side of the ball that are coaching. So you have to put your trust in that. Got a long track record, so I'm going to be sure that they'll tidy those things up.
Okay. Do you think
it's always been said many times? We've all heard. Yeah, I'm sorry, Bruce. That delay is causing us a little problem when we jump in.
Shorten the rotation on the defensive line?
I missed that question.
Will they shorten the rotation on the D-line? 10 guys played D-line today.
Maybe they will, but you do want to have a rotation there. So this week and next week, you have to find out what you have there, who could possibly play in the big time. You got to hurry up offenses these days. You're going to be playing a game in Texas in a couple of weeks against a strong opponent. It's good to be able to run fresh big guys up there against an offensive line. You're not going to rotate an offensive line, so if you can get fresh offensive line, big bodies in there that can play, that can wreak havoc on your execution offensive wise. So they'll shorten the rotation. I don't think by much though.
Okay.
You know what, Bruce? I got to add, I'm okay with play. I mean, you have to play a lot of guys in a game like this. So I'm worried about how many guys got in your rotation. It's like the NBA, where Eric Spoelstra is going to maybe play 9 or 10 guys, and then all of a sudden it's May. And now he's going to play 7, maybe 8 if somebody's in foul trouble. So when it gets tougher, rotations tend to get shorter. And that, maybe only in hockey because you have to use the same lines. But in basketball and in football, I think those rotations will work. Now, in the comment section, a few folks have talked about, why do we have to heat the pocket with a blitz? Why can't we just let our front guys take it? It's a fair point, but again, I think what you were saying, Chad, you're trying new thing, new approach. You have, a Charlie Strong as your linebackers coach. You've got a Kevin Steele as your defense coordinator. You're going to be experimenting, and there are opportunity against the team that you walk in the locker room. You're going to win this game. So let's throw some darts and see what works and what doesn't.
Yeah, I think whether you got pressure today out of that front four or not, you're going to run these blitzes. You've got to get the team used to running them. You've got to see where you might screw things up. You've got to see if you're able to execute them, because you are going to need those blitzes at some point. The opponents are going to get tougher. So these things were going to get run anyway. It's just, it didn't seem as though we effectively put pressure on the quarterback for Bethune, all 10 of the quarterbacks that played today for Bethune. Until we started running pressure. And by the way, I don't understand what they were doing at quarterback. They should have just left the Jalen kid in. I thought he was fine in that first series. They should have let him get a rhythm. And I don't know why they ran that many guys through.
And it led to that one of their interceptions came out of that second quarter.
Pick six.
And it was just, I don't know. They did mention on the broadcast that Bethune was going to spend 3 quarterbacks. They too in their first game. Maybe
that means you have this.
They haven't established that. Exactly. That guy's been there 7 years too. It's not like he's in his first year with this program, so he should have an idea of what he has. Maybe he took the same approach in a way. Hey, I'm just going to throw darts because my regular season start today. It's going to start when I start playing opponents that are more at my level. And he could be doing live auditions too. It's funny reading some of the comments. I did have to look again. The score was 70-13. I
don't know why are they so on Corey Flagg like this? Like, forget about last year, guys. If you go by last year, none of these linebackers should be playing. I saw better play out of all of those guys today. That much I will say.
Yeah, there were occasions.
We do have a caller, and again.
Okay, who's the caller?
But Bruce, it's the first game. No, you know what I mean?
There's nothing to complain about.
All right. Let's remind the caller from area code 717 to please press 1. And when you do, I get to see a little, very tiny hand come up, and then I know you're ready to go. There's the tiny hand. So let's bring our next caller in. And thank you for taking a moment to join us, Sport Postgame Show. And you're on, man.
Thank you. Yes, I won't hold you guys up. I want to say thank you for taking my call.
Of course.
But I do want to say something. Especially to the, I think it's Mr. Wilson that we were just talking about. Why is everybody ragging on quarterbacks? I played college football. I played linebacker. I'm an old man now, 45. Let me tell you something. As a student of the game, Corey Flagg would not start at St. Thomas Aquinas. Corey Flagg would not start at Northwestern. Corey Flagg is 5'9", 230, and for 3 years in this system, he still is chubby. I don't want to hear how he's a good student in the game. Because if that's the case, I can find a kid that studies accounting and put him if you're going to use that argument. Corey Flagg is not athletic. He can't make reads. And I'll tell you one thing. Watch the first series of this game, and you watch what they did every time Corey Flagg was in position. They checked, and they went right after him. Especially when they had man, when they thought it was man coverage with that back, Corey Flagg got burnt. Just like last year, he was throwing the ball.
They also attacked
terrible.
DJ Ivy. They went after him too.
Yeah, they did target DJ.
Yeah,
You're bringing up a linebacker's dimensions probably to the wrong guy, because I played with a guy that was 5'8", 200 pounds at linebacker, and he did pretty damn good. He was Jamaican as well. I'm not sure he read anybody's play. He just ran in there with his hair on fire, and he knocked people around, and he did pretty damn good. Last name Marley. I think his dad was a famous singer.
Yeah, he's my client, so be careful.
No, I love Rohan. So
that's what I.
yeah, I'm not worried about the dimensions. And I need to bring this up. I'm going to say this again for our caller who played college football. Try to understand this. That was a totally different defense last year. Relied heavily on gimmicks and tried to get negative plays. And you're in a different defense now. He may be for the first time learning how to just play fundamental defensive football from the linebacker position, where you are reading keys and you're not just hitting gaps and things of that nature. Not to get too technical for our listeners, but this is something new, and I'm interested in seeing how he comes along now that he's actually really being taught that kind of fundamental approach to defense. This staff has been here for the entirety of the spring and the summer, and they've put Corey Flagg out there. If you're saying he shouldn't be on the field and someone else should be out there, then you're telling me you don't trust Mario Cristobal and his staff. And is this the road we really want to go down in the first game? That was won 70-13, by the way.
Well, he's got Caleb Johnson breathing down.
All right, thank you, caller. I very much appreciate that.
Nobody to come in.
Well, he does seem to be the target for whatever reason today. I'm not sure why.
Yes, he is.
But yeah. You know what I wanted to ask you guys that was, I don't think it ever brought up on the telecast, and there was no check. The first turnover led to a penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct when the ball was spiked. And I'll be honest, I didn't miss it at all. You've got to earn something like that. And I think that, Miami started it, Miami ended it, and there were so many over the years. But frankly, and I don't know about the crowd, they were, we're going to get, oh, no, we're not. But I didn't miss it one bit.
No, and I didn't see anybody doing it, taking selfies on the sideline either. These kids were all near Mario. They were all lined up by the line, and they were into the game. That other BS is not going to happen anymore. Not with him and all those coaches he's got there. Right, Chad?
Yeah, I think we kind of lost our way with that. Just started trying things, trying to get, when the fire was, starting to burn, you just tried all kind of crazy things, and we moved away from the center of what we are. And so, that's where the selfies and the chains and everything is. It just went a little bit too far, and it started to become more about that than the actual performance. So when you come in as a new coach, there's some things you want to address really quickly. And those were one of the things that Mario wanted to address. And I'm glad that he did. Spiking a football and getting a flag, as someone from that era where we did some things at it. We ripped helmets off, we danced, all that. It's tough for me to see that. However, if that's the way that the game is today, then I'm 100% with Mario on, raising hell about it. And that, this isn't that time, that this is this time. And you're going to get flagged for spiking the ball. So, we really can't engage in that. You cost the team 15 points. It's not going to hurt us against Bethune Cookman, but it would against someone else of more quality, let's just say.
Guys, it was funny because at that particular moment, my wife and I were both watching the game, and she looked up and saw that and saw there was a flag. She goes, "Really? Are you kidding me? What is that all about? Why can't it express joy?" And, and on the telecast, they did talk about, look, he didn't do it at anyone. There was no Bethune player anywhere near. He's that close to his own sideline. I'm with you, Chad, that it is a rule. I went, well, that's going to be a flag. And she'll right there. He did what he was told to do. You can't blame the official. You take this one to the rule. This is what don't hate the player, hate the game kind of moments. The official, if he doesn't call that, is in trouble with his crew and with his supervisor. That guy is going to be downgraded for not making that call. Does the call suck? I think it does. I go back to the very beginning of all this. I mean, I go back to Coach Schnell. That didn't go on there. But when Jimmy arrived, the attitudes changed. Same with Dennis. He kept all of that. Every Hurricane fan knows that. That's not coming back. So everything else was fine. No other flags. I noticed a couple coaches when after touchdowns, if it got a little too rowdy, I saw a couple coaches start to bring guys back so you don't screw up a great moment with a 15-yard penalty. But, yeah, I would love to see a little loosening of that. If there had been a Bethune player near there and he spikes it at him, throw a flag. But in that case, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, you're just going to have to adjust. One of the first meetings that I went to, team meetings that I went to when I came to the University of Miami in 1992 was a rules committee meeting. They had the referees come in there, and they had a set of 10 things that you are not going to be able to do this year in college football. 10 of these things, 10 from around college football. 7 of the 10 were guys in the room with me from the University of Miami. So, literally everything that happened against Cal in the couple of games before, and the entire game of the Cotton Bowl was now
there.
Not do any of that stuff. And we adjusted. Okay. I mean, we found other things that, taking the helmet. We were all Lamar. We took the helmets off. We did all that, but we tried to stay within the framework of the rules because we're not trying to hurt the team. We are trying to win games. And you know what? In the onset here, it really should be more about the performance. I mean, Dave, you brought up Schnellenberger. This wasn't a part of Schnellenberger's regime. And this is where this thing started. After the success comes the celebration. We haven't had the success yet. So let's just keep it to what we're doing on the field. Let's make the tackles. Let's catch the football. Let's not fumble. Let's get it back to the achievement. And then we could talk about what little celebration rules we could bend down the road after we won an ACC title or been in the college football play. Let's get in the college football playoff before it goes to 12 teams. How about that? Let's try that.
That'd be nice. I give out those numbers again, David.
Yep, 563-999-3550. They're also on the crawl. So if you are now home and have joined us here on StreamYard, CaneSport Postgame Show, Bruce Warner, Chad Wilson is our guest. Gary Ferman will be calling in very shortly from either Hard Rock Stadium and soon from Casa Furman, where he has a lovely studio that doesn't, although he doesn't have a Muhammad Ali autographed photo behind my ear there that I do, but actually autographed by the champ.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Yeah, no, that was a gift from my wife.
That talk, Dave.
Yes. No, listen, I'm a U guy. I'm a grad. I'm all with all of that stuff. Believe me, I was at that Cotton Bowl and sitting in the press box covering it then for a local radio station. And sets of media in there. All the floor writers and broadcasters were like, "Hey, look at Randall. Look at that." Yeah, and the Texas people were beside themselves. They couldn't handle it. And first off, we all remember, Miami kicked Texas's butt all over the field.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember early in the game, Texas had a third down, and they tried to run wide. And I thought, this isn't going to end well. And it didn't. Tackle for a loss because we were so fast. And then I remember the press conference the next morning with Dennis. And again, Miami people are asking about either next year, who you have coming back, all this other stuff. And all the Texas reporters and the Dallas-based reporters are going, "Do you believe about your behavior of your team? What are you trying to?" It's kind of funny now. I'm sure Dennis, is ready to pull his hair out, and that guy was already pretty tightly wired to begin with. But it's so funny you mentioned that because, Chad, I've heard that story about that infamous tape where everything is, no more of this and all this. And like, well, You
It
know,
was
at least
us. It was a highlight video of the University of Miami. So
Right, but it was in the 30 for 30. But these guys, these Texas guys, don't know what was going on during that week. I do. I know that there was a lot of things.
they asked for all of that.
They asked for all of it. Yeah, you know, Stan Thomas and his big mouth, and there was a lot of things going on that was really bad. And I know the kids, they couldn't even go to the strip clubs. They were stuck. It was just bad. They came off the plane, they gave them bags with cotton in it. It was just bad. And they were just, and then they had a fight amongst themselves. And like a day or two before, that's why they were really pissed off. They had a big fight. I'm sure Caesar was in the middle of it. In fact, I know.
For sure, yes.
And so, and they just, at the end, they just said, F it, let's just kick their, you know what, and get the F out of town. That's what they said. And you could see in the locker room, because I had the satellite dish, I was watching it, and our guys were just like, the steam was coming to their heads. And I never saw Stephen McGuire be that animated at the 50-yard line. He's standing there going like this. He never did that. They were so hell-bent on beating the crap out of Texas. They didn't care how many penalties they got. They actually had over, 215 yards? A lot of them were late hits.
Oh, and one going
Hey,
away.
these guys in the comment section are going to make me a Corey Flagg fan. Pretty much. That's just what's going to happen.
We're going to start selling Corey for
Yeah,
season.
I really am going to start rooting for Corey Flagg. And for the guy who said Rohan Marley ran a 4.3, stop.
No way.
Never happened.
No.
Fake news.
I don't think so.
He could hit
we
like
do have another caller.
4.3. No.
Actually, that might be Gary calling in. Caller, please hit 1. That number looks mildly familiar. So wait for that mad hand to go up. There we go. And the wheel goes round and round. Hello there.
What's up, Dave?
It is.
Stadium and it's pretty food over here. I'll tell you that.
Not in the comments, Gary.
Look at all these comments. Corey Flagg's getting the worst.
Gary, you got us?
Yeah, I got you now. Yeah, you broke up on me there for a minute.
Yeah, we've had a couple of those breakups, but it's interesting. We have just been going through a rather traumatic 10 to 15 minutes about Corey Flagg.
You know what? I mean, I didn't know how to feel at the beginning of the game when I saw the returning linebackers in the starting lineup. You know, you're thinking the whole off season, well, they got Caleb Johnson from UCLA, and he's going to make the position stronger. And you know, then you come back out on opening day, and it's the same guys that kind of struggled last year. But you know, we'll see how it goes as the year goes forward.
What did Mario say after the game?
Very businesslike, you know, very, very focused, not too caught up in himself. And I'm sure inside, Dave, he's feeling just an insane assortment of emotions. I mean, how could he not? You know, he's been working for the last 20 years to get to this point and be the head coach at the University of Miami. But he's trying to really keep the focus on the football team and not make it about himself. And I think he was happy with the performance today. I you know, obviously it wasn't perfect on the defensive side of the ball in particular, but that's not necessarily a bad thing because it'll keep the kids working and it'll keep them focused on getting better as they go to another opponent that they should beat, obviously, this week in Southern Miss.
Bruce?
Gary, let me ask you this, Gary. What did Coach say after the game about? I'm sure the intensity he liked and the physicality he liked. Was there anything he didn't like that he said to you guys?
I think they were very happy with the physicality of the offensive line. I mean, you know, obviously it was a mismatch to a degree against Bethune Cookman, but listen, it's a start. You know, you got to start and build, and I think that they were extremely happy with the way they were able to run the ball today with what four or five different running backs, and all of them look good, including the walk-ons, and that was a byproduct of the work going on up front by the offensive line.
Yeah, and I think, of course, they outweighed their defensive line by 30, 40 pounds a man, which helps. We didn't have the rooster, but we saw a lot of kids play. Skinner caught a ball down the middle. That was a nice play. A lot of the young kids got in the game and made plays. You got to be thrilled about that. We actually had a kickoff return, touchdown, but we were close to it. And those are things that this team has been missing since Devin Hester, for the most part. So I think he's happy, but I'm happy that they gave up points and that on an occasion they looked kind of sloppy because he's going to play off of that, getting ready for next week, and of course getting ready for the Thursday game.
Bruce, they were playing a lot of guys on defense, and they were moving guys now almost on every play, and I think that contributed a little bit to maybe some of the breakdowns that they had in the secondary and so on and so on. And I think that as they move forward and start building towards September 17th in College Station, I think that night the rotation will be and I think we'll see the breakdowns maybe reduced a little bit as that happens.
Yeah, Chad and I touched on the D-tap. I didn't know much from the D-tap. I didn't see much from the D-tap.
No, Gary, it's just hilarious. The Chad has defended Corey Flagg a couple of times. We have a question for you regarding Corey Flagg. Did that name come up at all, or anything about the linebacker trio?
I don't think so. No, I mean, it was not part of the discussion game at all. Those guys were out there. I don't think that anything was done so spectacularly that they would be a topic of conversation. If anything, maybe they struggled a little bit containing the quarterback.
Yeah. Scrambles
at times. But that kid's, those guys are Bethune had guys, and it might have caught them a little bit by surprise. I mean, there were times the defense looked a little slow out there against them. Mm-hmm. If that's really the case, or these were just really that.
Well, Gary, thank you. I tell you what, are you on your way?
Yeah, I'll be back in the studio in a little bit, and I'll get back on with you guys.
Okay, very good. We'll let you go, and we'll look for you on our StreamYard feed. Gary Ferman, founder of CaneSport.
We'll talk to you in a few.
All right, buddy. We appreciate Gary checking in. The number is still on the bottom of your screen, but it's worth repeating at 563-999-3550. Obviously, we've been through the comments section. This has somehow turned into from a 57-point victory in Mario Cristobal's debut as Miami head coach into a Corey Flagg debate. A couple things they covered. For those of you on that, who's into that sort of thing, and Miami alone beat the over, which I think was 59.5 by the time the betting windows were closed. Ironically, next week, guys, I'll be watching the Southern Miss game from Vegas. Which would be a 9 a.m. Yeah, I actually have to put a little more interest in it than just the alma mater. Yeah. Depending on that. Southern Miss, by the way, is just
the team goes to College Station. So,
all right.
Oh wow.
Yeah, Bruce, when you going to Vegas? Let's make it the trifecta.
When am I going to Vegas? Who's going to pay for all this? I'm not going.
If there's one thing to really point out on defense that was problematic was giving up the edge and contain quite a few times.
Yes.
Especially in the quarterback scrambles. That's something they're really going to have to tighten up and figure out what went wrong there, because it happened a little too often. I don't have the stats right here in front of me, but those quarterbacks did take off for quite a few yards. And if it's not a lot in the stats, I'm not sure how they count sacks or anything like that. But a number of those guys had some pretty good runs, and they were to the outside, break and contain when their play broke down. And that's very frustrating defensively when you've got guys covered up and a quarterback breaks contain and gets a first down. That can really affect you mentally on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, well, they had, I think in the one series they had two Third and long, 3rd and 20, 3rd and 25, and they converted.
3rd and 27, first series they gave up.
Yeah, and that was a bugaboo the last couple of years under Manny. Those third down conversions. So, but I'm not worried about it. It'll get fixed. It will get fixed because this is a different staff, and I think that Mario realizes that.
And you want to have these kind of things happen in a game like this in that first game. Mario's going to need reasons to be a jerk over the next 2 weeks. Yeah. And there are reasons here. There are things for you to harp on. There are things for you to make a big deal out of. And there are things for you to blow up on and have guys, because I've been in the meet. It's funny to have been a coach and also a player at this point, because you kind of understand things a little bit more. But there are some things for him to look at and say, what the hell's going on, and have guys in the meeting room rolling their eyes like, Jesus, man, we won this game by 57 points. Why are you tripping? Well, it's Bethune Cookman. It's not Texas A&M and the fighting Jimbo Fishers who are ready to knock off Alabama this year. That's going to be a different game.
We had 10 receivers catch balls, Dave, and I don't remember, were there any drops in the game?
No, and Bruce is big on these drops.
None.
Yeah, I can't recall one. Real quick, Bruce, and just to update everybody, we're getting some people wondering about the Rooster. He's not healthy at the moment. No suspension, nothing like that. People were asking, why didn't he play? He warmed up. The decision was made to just sit him out. If you're going to sit a guy out, this is the time to do it. Get him ready. While you guys, I'm going to check on Southern Miss and see what their score is. They're up against Liberty, which is no fun at all. That's a tough program under Hugh Freeze, and I'll see if I can get an update on that one.
Meanwhile, Zion Nelson was trying to warm up too, but they held him out too. He'll play next week as well.
Yeah, these are wise decisions. Don't get a guy, going out there half-cocked and furthering an injury in a game like this.
Right.
Plus, you need to see what some other guys can do anyway. So, what are
his did a good job at left tackle? I thought he did good. But again, they're going against guys that are 240 pounds.
I thought the pass blocking was really, really good today.
Yes.
Like I said, I didn't see the push up front. They did get some holes. Obviously, the running backs had a good day. I thought the pass blocking was really good. And against a team like Bethune Cookman, you may get some athletes on the edges that could propose a problem. And there was none for Tyler Van Dyke back there. He had the time to see downfield, find his receivers, and that was something that was very encouraging that I saw.
This game, by the way, if you really want to look back at it, is on ESPN. It is 10-3 Liberty. They're getting close to halftime. Southern Miss has the ball. In fact, Liberty just committed a 15-yard roughing the passer penalty, so Southern Miss may be able to put together a last-minute drive to see if they can get more points on the board. So Liberty 10-3. That Florida-Utah game, Utah's in the red zone. They're up 10-7 in the Swamp.
I got Utah now.
Yeah. Utah is no fun, Bruce. Utah's no fun. They are
good. They beat Mario twice last year.
Right. That's what I mean. And you talk about a team, because Kyle Whittingham has been there so long, that takes on the identity of their head coach. Mm-hmm. It's Utah. Like Alabama with Saban. And, it's Chad before, man, we have a caller waiting. But, Chad, you brought up a great point about Mario needing to be a jerk this week. He learned from the best.
Yes.
Alabama. Because there's a guy who I'm sure probably went home and went, hey, honey, we played pretty good today, but wait till tomorrow.
Yes. I've seen some Nick Saban halftime interviews up 30 to 35 points that look like he was down 10 to Auburn in the Iron Bowl. So.
Right. Okay. So, and Mario's going to unload on him the same thing. I think we all know that. And I think even some of you who are maybe a touch skeptical in the comment section feel that way too. Caller does have the hand raised. We'll go to 754. I've got 50 windows open, and my mouse is on the wrong part of the computer. There we go. All right. All right, caller, go ahead. Thank you for taking a minute. You are on.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Of course.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
So over the last several years, the biggest concern has been lack of pressure up front by our front four. We brought in all these transfers. I expected to see a big difference, and I didn't really see that today. So I want to hear from you guys that know better than I do to give me some type of optimism for the future.
Well,
our line on our front.
We've been talking about this quite a bit, actually, about the defense. It's really kind of dominated the conversation the last half hour. So let's turn it over to somebody who knows better than both of us, and that would be Chad, about that defensive line performance.
Yeah, it was something that I pointed out as maybe something that you would try to tighten up in the next week and get better at. Some front four pressure without the blitzes in the games. You do want to see that part of it. So maybe chalk it up to it being, a new defense. I've been a defensive coordinator before, albeit on the high school level, but I know those first couple of games, it's guys adjusting to things, trying to forget about what they did in the last system, even terminology. We saw issues, especially in that first drive with getting lined up. So, all of that is things that you're going to have to adjust to. And I think to our caller here, if you see this as still a problem in week 3 or 4, then yeah, it's something that we should worry about. Game 1, no, I wouldn't worry about it too much. I would have liked to have seen guys storming into the backfield, but we didn't have that, and we'll just have to kind of be patient here. I know that's not something fans really indulge in, especially in the social media era, but I'd be a little patient on that. Let's see what we do against Southern Miss, and then let's see what we do against Texas A&M when the passion is going to be a little bit more elevated. I want to see these guys rise to the occasion, and you could possibly get that, and you could be surprised, like, wow, they didn't do anything against Southern Miss, Bethune Cookman, but look at them today against Texas A&M. You'll see that happen sometime. So let's get to the Texas A&M game and wow, if this game would have been 49-10, I don't know what we'd be talking about here. We'd be in a serious fight with callers and comments.
Chad, I'll be honest. My opinion is as follows. I'm going to be honest. To me, I see 10 defensive ends. I really don't see a true defensive tackle. I don't see Will Fork. I don't see Russell. I don't see Ez. I don't see Jerome. Jimmy Jones. I don't. I look at these guys, we can interchange them, and a lot of these guys came in as the end, and they just put them over. Mm-hmm. So as far as I'm concerned, they're missing the big dude in the middle, or the big dudes in the middle that could stuff the run and let the ends go in there, and they could just push up. Those guys, to me, they look like 4 defensive ends that are between 260 and 290, 280. That's what I say. I'm just being blunt. I don't say the D tackles yet. Blunt. Cool.
Yeah, a couple of things. Well, let me acknowledge a few folks in the comment section. 30 Rack Shody is the one who definitely is not a Corey Flagg fan, and we see what you're doing there.
He must be the father of a backup on this team.
Yeah, you never know. But he's license says 30 Rack Shody, but he's welcome to his opinions, of course. The twos I noticed we mentioned, we do have a couple of times with echoes. This is our first full time doing this. We've had a couple of dress rehearsals, and much like this being our 70-13 game. So we'll certainly try to figure out anything technical. But again, when you put me in charge of something technical, be happy we're here. That we haven't inadvertently started a nuclear war by me hitting the wrong button. So, just take this as a win. Let's get off of Corey Flagg a second and all that, and take a little step away from the game. I wanted to ask you guys about some of the other things that happened in the ACC. We're not going to count Florida State, Duquesne. That was kind of their Bethune. I actually didn't know Duquesne was D1 football. I know they are in basketball. I know where they're located, in Pittsburgh. I know that. Did not know they had football. North Carolina, NC State, both today barely get by. North Carolina, I have to wonder about Mac's defense, because they've had a couple of very hairy games now against so-called weaker teams. Duke got slaughtered by Temple. Boston College loses to well-known traditional Big Ten powerhouse Rutgers. Don't even start with that. Don't start. What have we learned in the first week that we can completely overreact about in the ACC?
If we don't win the Coastal, we suck. That's my take. Because you're doing all
put that on a t-shirt. I want to see that t-shirt at CanesWear in 2 weeks.
We don't win the Coastal, we suck. That's a good one. Look, Duke stinks. Georgia Tech's going to get obliterated tomorrow by Clemson, or Monday by Clemson.
Yeah.
We have more talent in these teams. We should win. We really should. Should have done it the last 10 years, but we didn't.
I'll say that North Carolina game was a very North Carolina game. This is their philosophy. This is what they do now. They're just going to outscore people. I don't want people to underrate Appalachian State. This is a solid football program. They could very well be in the ACC beating Duke every year. They could very well be doing that.
They would.
They would be a Wake Forest type of team. So we don't want to underrate them, but North Carolina hasn't cared about defense for the last few years. So they're going to be hell in terms of, just trying to outscore them. So I wouldn't overreact to this. I was surprised by NC State. I don't know if that's East Carolina's better than people may have thought, because people don't really think about East Carolina. I really felt like I feel like NC State's going to have a good team this year. I'm going to wait and see what next week brings. And then you know what? Pittsburgh's had that on top feeling. So I wouldn't go so far as to say we should absolutely win the Coastal. We should be favorites, obviously. But I think Pitt's going to still be a good team. I think NC State's going to be better than they showed today. They better be. And North Carolina, if you come in there sleeping, they'll hang 40-50 on you, and you'll be in a shootout that maybe you don't want to be in. So we'll just have to see on that. Duke getting manhandled by Temple, I don't know. Georgia Tech, I think, is going to do better against Clemson than maybe Bruce thinks. And fellas, don't be shocked if Florida State beats LSU, because I totally believe in Brian Kelly, but it's a first game with a brand new coach, with a brand new quarterback that he had to scramble up and put in the lineup when his previous quarterback took the NIL money and left. So. Right. So Florida State wins, everyone's antennas are going to be up, but I wouldn't be surprised because they already have a game under their belt against an LSU team coming
That's
out.
true.
Yeah, don't be shocked if they win that game.
And LSU is not a comeback team.
We don't know that now, though.
Well,
they're a little bit of a mystery.
They'll be good down the road. I mean, the last three guys that went in there and coached won national titles. Right. Including our beloved, Ed Ogeron. So, they'll be good. Yeah, and Brian, go Tigers. So, and Brian Kelly can definitely coach. So, but I don't know about game one. Florida State might get them, and you know what happens if Florida State beats LSU? Oh my goodness!
Oh yeah, we'll never hear the end of it.
Of course.
But that's okay. We play them down here. We play North Carolina down here. I'll take my chances.
You want to hear the end of it? You can take care of that yourself. By not giving damage on plays against your biggest Louisville 3-0. That's the main game on the ACC network. I wanted to update you. Southern Miss threw a pick, so they trail Liberty at halftime 10-3. That's Miami's next opponent. That's a noon Eastern time start, 9 a.m. Vegas. And since I get up early, I'll have a seat somewhere for that one. And of course, that's our show. So that means next week, 3-ish, 3:30, 3:15, something like that, Eastern time, of course. And we'll all be back for that. So the number again, Gary should be joining us from his home shortly, 563-999-3550. One more time for those who were just joining us, Rooster not available today. Decision made before the game not to play him. There's nothing else. There were no suspensions announced, and I didn't hear anything that was dramatic. Nothing like that. Just what they call in the NBA a DNPCD. Did not play. Coach's decision.
Yep.
That's of course the NBA is. It's also the league where you miss 65 games with knee tendonitis, and yet you're warming up on the court 2 hours before the game. So but not in this case. There's no subterfuge. There's no nothing. The other big game, and thank you, Derek, for the update. This I thought was weird. Ohio State is number 2. Notre Dame, 5th. 2 versus 5. How many times have we seen 2 versus 5 with a 16.5-point spread? I don't understand that.
We saw 3 versus 11 today with a 17-point spread that got covered by a whole lot. So
Gators are ahead.
Notre Dame should not be number 5. It's that simple. They shouldn't even be in the top 10. They're okay, but they're not that good. They're not as good as Ohio State. They're loaded Ohio State, right?
What's a tight game right now, though? So
it is. And Florida's gone ahead.
Oh,
And FAU is up at Ohio. My friends at FAU, they're losing 27-17 at Ohio after opening with a big win. So got some good people at FAU, so wanted to give them a shout out, but hopefully they can that's an unusual place to call a game, by the way. They have this, everything up there is small. It's a beautiful little place, but you call the game from coaches' offices. They open the windows in the end zone, and I think it's the end zone where the little football building is. And when I did a TV game there, they set our booth up in their recruiting room. So it's not exactly, now that's a few years ago. Maybe it's changed, but a charming college town without question, a beautiful little place. But so Ohio leading FAU there. Miami, a 70-13 winner. The good news is, and Gary will confirm this when he comes back and joins us in a few minutes, is that we didn't hear anything about serious injuries. That's always my biggest concern. That's what I tell people about NFL exhibition season. Don't get fired up about this. Just pray that your favorite team doesn't lose your favorite player in an exhibition game. That's why you see, and I follow the Packers now. That's why you saw 0 starters play for the Packers in 3 preseason games. And this was essentially a preseason game for Miami. Only, of course, it counts. But that's a huge thing for me. Please don't get anybody seriously hurt. And
that's something I would have wanted to ask Gary, and I guess I will when he gets on, is that we come out of this thing completely healthy. How's Leonard Taylor? He did go down. Let's make sure we didn't lose anyone we're going to need down the road.
And Ja'Kai Clark played.
Yeah.
He played.
I am going to give love to our sponsor one more time, CanesWear, as soon as I load up the commercial, which is right after the Cavender twins. So let's see. I had to hit the show button about 12 times. So,
Welcome to CanesWear. Family owned and operated since 2010, CanesWear has all latest merchandise for the Miami Hurricanes, Miami Dolphins, Inter Miami Soccer, and more. Come visit us at our store in Davie on University Drive, just south of I-595, or online at CanesWear.com. CanesWear, the spot Miami fans shop.
Here it is.
And there you go. There you go. And I'll have one of those tomorrow.
Yep. Got a hell of a deal on it, too.
Well, I would hope
hell of a deal.
You're an attorney. You know how to negotiate.
I didn't have to negotiate. He just threw the shirt at me and said, goodbye.
He wanted to get rid of you that badly. He just,
I
don't even
then I had to come back to get your shirt. So
get out of my store.
Let's talk about positives. I'm tired of this negative stuff. I thought that Parrish was incredible. And I remember when he transferred last year, people were screaming on CaneSport, why do we need him? We already have Cheney, we have Rooster, we have Fat Franklin. What do we need him for? But he had 1,000 yards last year at Mississippi as one of 3 running backs. That kid is really good, Chad. You talk about him. He's really
I was really, really pleased with him. He was, he looked like he did back in high school. So it's good to have another guy. You can never have too many running backs. Guys get hurt. It's a brutal position. And it's good to listen. Do we all remember? I remember this. I remember being on the sidelines coming back to games, and we would take Clinton Portis out of a game that we were very much ahead. And I guess maybe the other team thought that, okay, we could breathe easy, and they put some dude named Frank Gore in, and it was murder. It was like some of the most electric running you would ever see. Like fans would even stand up on a play fake to Frank Gore. And so we want to get back to that. It's relentless. It's depth. If there's any position we have depth like we did back in the olden days, it's at the running back position. And I'm not mad at it. And hopefully we can do a good job of managing that, because there's this transfer portal thing now where guys get up and leave if they didn't have the required amount of handoffs. Just hope we can keep that whole thing together and just keep coming at people with this whole bevy of running backs. That'd be great to see.
Miami was up at the half 42-10.
Right.
But at one point in time, it was 28-10. And I think Bethune Cookman had the ball. But after that, it just turned completely around. It got really ugly after a while.
Well, one thing, Bruce, 2 things. First off, Parrish's final numbers for the day, 108 yards, averaged almost 8 yards a carry, 3 touchdowns. Did not catch anything. He caught
3 out the backfield.
3 for 25.
Right.
So he had 133 total yards.
That's
One
good.
thing I was really fond of, and I'm looking for the numbers, but just off the top of my head, we know that Bethune was guilty of a lot of silly penalties, undisciplined type false start penalties, a lot of them.
Mhm.
As even the game went on, looking for penalties for Miami, 6 for 48. Yeah, one of them was the 15-yarder for the unsportsmanlike conduct, and there was another unsportsmanlike conduct penalty that offset. So that's 2 out of 6 that were like that. So only 4 other penalties. One was a hold. So they didn't have any of those undisciplined, silly penalties that you so often see in a game like this, which tells me the players were locked in mentally. Physical mistakes are one thing. You're going to grab a jersey. You're going to grab a guy in coverage or something like that. But when you start jumping offside, another was the illegal formation. Not illegal formation, the ineligible man downfield on Mallory.
Yes.
Because he
covered
wasn't
up and went
at-
down for the pass.
because he had
That
somebody
was weird,
outside of
but
him. Yeah, but I thought overall offensively they were really good in Miami. They looked really good. No drops. They didn't really throw the ball deep.
10 drives, 9 touchdowns. I mean,
yeah, they didn't go over the top, but they're probably going to say, I know what they're doing. Obviously, they're setting up even the stuff they did today, Chad. They have formations that A&M will see, but they won't run it the same way. They're not going to run it the same way.
Sure, that's just smart offensive coordinating.
Yes. I thought he did a great job. They mixed up the plays. Sometimes in the past we've seen run, pass, punt. But today was different. It was really good. And it was vanilla, but it was good.
I did like coming out and establishing the dominance in the run game early on. And I've long felt like this is what a University of Miami team needs to do. I don't think we're a spread it out, throw the ball around type of program. People will always point to all of the speed that's in South Florida. But you know what? From day one, since I was a kid, we've always cranked out running backs in South Florida. And we should, if we're going to spread it out, we should be about running first, then throwing the football. And, I heard a comment from Tyler Van Dyke that one of the announcers mentioned was that he likes the fact that we're going to run the football and be physical and establish that, and then set up the big plays down the field. And I really think that's what it is. As we go out and recruit, that is the position we're going to be able to easily find and get guys to sign up for and show up to the University of Miami and keep that depth going. We should be able to come at people with the running game because that's what we're going to be able to get down here in abundance. We don't really produce quarterbacks like that. And because we don't produce quarterbacks like that, though we may have speedy wide receivers, they aren't always that developed. What you're going to get that's going to be good, that will be good, are running backs out of South Florida's high school football program.
Yeah, and keep them here. And that's the other thing. We got to keep them here. We had I'm on the faculty at American Heritage. Sony Michel goes to Georgia, takes Isaiah McKenzie with him the next year. You got Fletcher from Heritage, who's Ohio State bound, supposedly. That is a big thing. But the other thing, I was looking at a roster today, just getting names and faces and numbers, trying to get locked in. And it's encouraging to see how many are from this area. Mm-hmm. And more coming, because so far it looks like the next recruiting haul is going to be a very fruitful one based on what we've seen and what we're hearing, and that's still not over yet, of course. But that again, I mentioned the late Howard Schnellenberger. That goes back to his state of Miami that he invented, and that's got to be something that's in the back of Cristobal's mind, even though he's not part of that Schnellenberger era. That the state of Miami kind of has to come back. However, when Howard birthed that idea, it wasn't like it is now. You don't have all these you didn't have all these programs raiding the state like they do now, from the Panhandle practically down to Key West. And in addition, just to the infighting among the Florida schools, how much damage Nick Saban done to the state of Florida alone, and now Kirby Smart. I mean, I go there just about every day, and when it's recruiting time, guys. And this isn't the only school, but this is one that I'm affiliated with, Aquinas and many of these others, Chaminade and Columbus now and others that are so good. I pull into the parking lot and near the stadium, and there's a bunch of cones set off. And I go, what's going on? I need a place to park. Oh, well, Nick Saban is coming here. Kirby Smart was just here. This guy from this school is coming. Ohio State's sending somebody. So we're blocking off some cones, for those guys to park so they don't have to walk very far. I mean, that's what's going on now. And it wasn't that way when the state of Miami was created. Gary has joined us now. Welcome home.
What's up, guys? Man, it was a bear getting out of there today. The Canes fans were,
and that's a good thing when you're playing at Bethune Cookman. I heard 50,000. That's great.
It looked about that. Yeah, it was a nice crowd. So
what did Mario say, Gary?
Yeah, sorry. It seemed like my sound wasn't great when I called in earlier. I think there were just a lot of people on cell phones leaving the stadium. Mario was very low key, I mean, he's very focused, very businesslike, and not too caught up in the emotions of what just has to mean like in the world to him. I'm writing about that in my column for CaneSport.com. I mean, this is a guy that left Miami about 20 years ago to go on this journey to develop as a coach. And I remember the day he left, and he and I were talking that day, and he said to me, I want to come back and be the head coach here one day. And that was his unquestioned goal. And, he worked at Rutgers, came back for a short time, and, went obviously to Alabama and Oregon. And all of these jobs were geared for him toward eventually getting back here and being ready to be a great head coach at Miami. And so that this just means the world to him. But he is trying so hard to just tunnel vision, focus on this team, make this team as good as it can be. Because if they can go to College Station, and this is far from a great football team right now. I mean, they have a lot of good players. We saw it today. But if they can go to College Station and somehow win that game, the Coastal is shaping up to be incredibly manageable. The schedule is set up fantastic, and they can have a really special transition season here that they can use as a launching pad to better things down the road. So a lot of recruits out there today, way more than you would ever see for a Bethune Cookman game. So I think it was just a positive day all around for Mario, and I think that he's just trying not to get caught up in those emotions and keep the focus off himself and on the mission.
Okay, well, and I think he's doing the right thing, and we all knew this was a stepping stone. Next week is another one, although Southern Miss isn't that good. They only have 3 points at the half today. But I think he's happy with the effort. He talked about physicality in almost every press conference he's had since he got here. I think he's accomplished a lot of the things. Does he have all the players he needs? No, not necessarily. I think for me, I was disappointed in defense because even as late as just past Wednesday on the show with Lamar, you said this could be one of the best defenses in the country. I'm not saying they're not going to be, but to me, they're still missing true defensive tackles. It seems like there's 10 guys, they're all DNs, and some of them got blown up and they're moved into the inside, but there's no Wilforks or Sapps or Russells or Tezes or Jeromes. I think he realizes that he's doing the best he can with what he has.
Bruce, I think the rotation today was extremely heavy, and I don't think anybody was in the game long enough to really make that kind of impression like what you're talking about. Darryl Jackson looked very good to me when he was in there and very disruptive on the inside.
He's active.
I thought Messidor looked sensational, but they're going against guys they're just way better than. But I think that the rotation will tighten as the games get more serious, and the snap counts for the better players will go up, quite a bit, and then we'll get a better feel really for what this defense can be. But I thought all the rotation taking place kind of contributed maybe to some of the breakdowns.
That could be.
Chad, you were a DB, I mean, you would understand this certainly better than us. I mean, you're rotating corners and safeties almost on not just every series, but constantly. Can you get into a rhythm of the game and how do you stay on your P's and Q's and make the proper adjustments and things like that on a play-to-play basis when the guys that you're playing next to are changing all the time?
Yeah, it's not typical to see a rotation with DBs because you do need more of that continuity. You do get rotations with the defensive line. They're bigger guys. They'll get tired. It's really good to be able to get a fresh guy in there. And the game's a little more simplified for them. So it's either, you're rushing this gap or you're, running this twist. It's just not as complicated for them. So you can run a good amount of guys through there. So you'll see that in that position and not so much in the positions behind that, linebacker and DB. You're not going to really have too much of a rotation there. So, I'm a little bit with Bruce. I didn't see the penetration that I'd like to see, but it's new. It's brand new. It's early. Let's give him a chance to see that, to get comfortable and, let's see what's produced down the road. I think we should keep an eye on Jake Lichtenstein, the kid from Cypress Bay out here in Broward County. I liked him in high school. I thought he'd do really well at USC, but it was hard for anyone to do well at USC the last couple of years. I think he'll be energized and refreshed coming to the University of Miami. And he might be a guy that would surprise and make some noise here. So he's one to keep an eye out on.
He has good penetration. He's a tough and hard-nosed kid. Maybe we know this was game one, but maybe Mario's thinking, maybe not outwardly, this was the next fall practice, fall game, scrimmage, whatever you want to call it. And that's why he experimented so much. He really wants to know what these guys are going to do. He'll probably do it next week too. But for A&M, things probably get a little.
Well, you have to.
Right, you have to.
This is the time to do it. This is the time to do it. And Gary, to your point, while you were at the stadium, I brought up how rotations tighten in the NBA when you get to the playoffs. The regular season, you might run 9 guys, but in the playoffs, depending on the matchup, et cetera, and so forth. Well, this is your chance to everybody who showed up in pads and football shoes out there, and just to give them a little reward for their hard work, but also to find out, hey, you might, the coaches might go back tonight and go, hey, by the way, what about this guy? He played great. Didn't think that and didn't see that, didn't expect it. Let's consider giving him more playing time against Southern Miss. So I'm not nearly as gloomy and doomy as some of the folks are about the rotation, because this is your chance to throw them all out there and let's play. Let's see who can handle a game day. Let's see who can handle being in that spotlight. Okay, I don't care if it's Bethune Cookman. It's somebody else who's not in orange and green. It's a different guy across from you, a guy you haven't seen before. Maybe you saw him in high school. Okay, big deal. It ain't high school anymore. And the same thing's going to happen next week. You're going to see a different look, a different opponent, a different approach. Everything's going to be different, except the stadium. So play everybody. Let them have that moment in the spotlight. And at the same time, it's kind of almost like an undercover scouting mission for not the starters, not the guys we know are going to play, but for guys that might have earned a little extra touch or two by their performance today.
I'll tell you who impressed me, and it's not somebody who made tackles or caught the ball, but he's a weapon. Bora Gallis' kickoffs were nowhere near the goal line. They were way beyond the goal line. And
I think he was perfect on touchbacks.
He was great, yeah.
And he certainly had a lot of practice today. So, guys, he's icing that foot as we speak.
Yeah. He got stronger. That's something we don't have to worry that much about. Kickoff returns for a touchdown with a kid like that, which that's a good thing. I thought Parrish was spectacular, Gary.
Yeah, he really was. But it was funny because he's not used to being the workhorse back, kind of like he was at times there. And there was one point, it was right before, I can't remember if it was his first touchdown or his second touchdown, but he was asking out of the game. He was like, wait.
I did notice that, yes.
I need a breather. And Kevin Smith, the running backs coach from the sideline, started yelling at him, get out of here with that. Like, you stay out there. Obviously, knowing that the play call was to give him the ball to try to score the touchdown. And, he sucked it up and he stayed in the game and he scored the touchdown. And he kept coming to the sidelines and he was riding the bicycle, trying to get himself going, keep his body warm. He wasn't used to this kind of role. So today was big for him to kind of transition, because he's going to have to be the number one back for a while. There's no doubt about it. Rooster's he'll be back soon. They were just protecting him today. He was very close to being able to play. it made sense to hold him out this week. They need him on September 17th at Texas A&M. But
what did you find out about Zion? Zion also, he'll be back next week. Yeah, we thought
Zion should start getting some playing time next week. Yeah, they, same type of deal in that regard. And the injury report coming out of this game was pretty good. Leonard Taylor had a stinger. He's going to probably be okay. And Ja'Kai Clark went out of the game, but they feel he's going to be okay too. So I think they escaped this game without any major injuries. So that was a good thing.
That was good. That was real good.
Everybody, we still have time for 563-999-3550, 563-999-3550. And when you do call the callers, make sure you hit 1 so we know to go to you. We've got a few minutes left here before we wrap up this initial show here on CaneSport Postgame with Gary Ferman and our special guest, Hurricane alum Chad Wilson. Chad, what do you got going right now, by the way? I know you're still involved in the game. What's going on with you?
Well, there's 2 businesses that I run. I run All Eyes DB Camp, where I train defensive backs from ages 13 all the way into the pros. That I'm certainly coming off of my in-season, which was the off-season for those guys. So just finished sending everyone off to their seasons, their camps, their training camps, and all of those good things. And so I do also run a little online part of that business where guys can subscribe, and I have videos in there to teach people the game. Oddly enough, in doing this, I found out just how much football is played overseas. And in the international parts, I get guys from Mexico and Sweden and Germany and all of these other types of places trying to learn defensive back online. It's a wonderful world we live in now. So you're able to do that. And I provide that for people. And then also still run Gridiron Studs, which is a recruiting service that now has an app. I've had an app for the last few years. Guys come on, they create profiles, and it has all of the information that they would need on there to be recruited, whether that's academic information, athletic information, height, weight, their weight room numbers, track numbers, things of that nature. And I have college coaches using that to come on there and find players that may have not otherwise have been found, so it's been a good thing that I've had going for over a decade now, and I'm just continuing to improve on that. And so that and traveling to games every weekend during this time of year keeps me and the wife very, very busy. So that's what
Gary, I went to CanesWear this morning to get this shirt. Then I had to go back to get Dave's shirt. But let me tell you something. The enthusiasm that I saw inside that place and the line that went all the way down the block waiting to go in here to buy UM merchandise. And they were all decked out, even the women with the orange and green under here.
You got to love that.
You got to love it. And Brett was smiling from ear to ear. He was busy as all heck because the place was so crowded. But I'm happy for him. And, and they're our sponsor. And you guys got to go there. That place is incredible. And they're moving a little further down in the same plaza to even bigger store. So CanesWear is the place to go. It's on University Drive in Davie. But what a great store. And it's more than just Canes, but, I'm a Canes guy. So I'm going to talk about the Canes.
Yeah, Dolphins and Inter Miami as well.
Great.
And by done there, or before you go there, drop into La Spada, grab a sub, and you basically have your day set.
Yeah, I've been in the store. I used to coach at University School, which is right across the street from there. I can second that on CanesWear being a great store for guys that want, Canes gear or anything of that, all kinds of Canes stuff in there. And then I can also, La Spadas, I can also second that as well. You're going to sub out of this world, heavy, tons of meat. That's 2 great places to go to in there.
Like a double header over there.
For sure.
They're getting all this free pub.
Oh, that place, yeah. That's an instant. Yeah, they don't need it, Bruce. They're fine. They don't need it. I'm just double checking to see if that game is kicked off. If you want to do a little scouting yourselves on Southern Miss, that game is on ESPN Plus. They have the ball back. They're trailing 10-3. It's interesting. Some of the other results, Notre Dame's ahead, 10-7. They were a big underdog in this game, as many as 17 points. Shockingly, Alabama's up 31-0. Syracuse, and probably the biggest game of the ACC in general, 10-7 Syracuse in the Dome against Louisville. Louisville was favored in that game by 5.5. And I'm looking for anything else of interest. Florida ahead 14-13 at the half.
Okay.
But that's really about it. USC is hammering Rice. You know, it's interesting. If you're going to compare a program to Miami, I've always thought USC was the one. So many similarities.
Yes, I'm here to tell you, someone who lived out in Los Angeles, that is Miami on the West Coast. Literally the same situation. Off-campus stadium, big metropolitan area. Fans who have a whole lot of other things that they could do than go to a USC game if you're not playing like USC should play. So, you know, if you have some lean years, and they've had them just like us, they're not going to show up. And then they've also been bitten by the recruiting, the open borders of recruiting. You know, you mentioned it before earlier, Dave. It's you'd love to get back to the state of Miami, but it's so difficult because of the internet and social media, and guys can go see what these other places will do. And in places in the South, namely every SEC school minus Vanderbilt, is willing to pour millions of dollars into their program because there is nothing else. There's no beach, there's no Hollywood, there's none of that. So they can pour everything into these programs and bring recruits in from Florida and dazzle them with all of the stuff that you've got in the athletic department. I went to Alabama a couple of times, and quite frankly, it was like Disney World. I was kind of turned off by it, to be honest, as a former player. I was like, this is too much. It's kind of like Texas high school football. When you've played in front of 60,000 people in high school, what's left for you if you go to college? God forbid, if you go to an FCS school, you're going to get like, what am I doing here? I've already reached the big time at Allen High School in Texas. So that's USC gets hit by the same things Miami gets hit by.
Gary, did you talk to any players?
Yeah, they're hitting.
Yeah, we did. We spoke to Gilbert Frierson. Was so funny. The videos are up on CaneSport.com now. So any of you guys listening out there who want to see the post-game interview that we did, you can go and watch those. Watch Gilbert Frierson, man. He's like a little kid in a candy store. He's so excited, and to make that interception, and Messenger did a great job getting his hands up and batting the ball, and Gilbert was obviously euphoric over it falling into his lap and the play. And
yeah, that was great. That was great for him for that to happen to him.
Yeah, it really was.
You know, I love a good pick six.
No, yeah. You ever have any of those? I can't remember.
No, I got my picks, but none in the end zone. I did have a good view of Carlos Jones's famous interception from the other side of the field.
But Frierson was hysterical. So he's doing his press conference, and Messidor's in the back of the room, and he calls them up to the front. They're hugging each other, and so it was kind of cool. So if you guys have, you guys that are listening out there, make sure you watch that Gilbert Frierson interview in our post-game section.
What about
you have take a second here when the waning moments here to give everybody an idea of a typical CaneSport schedule.
A typical CaneSport schedule, like
as far as
meaning like our
programming.
Oh, okay, yeah, boy, we're grinding, man. We got everybody working right now. If you look at the website right now, we've got a ton of content off the game. We've got Mario Cristobal and the player post-game reaction. Jim Martz wrote a column already about Mario Cristobal's opener, the latest in a long string of first-time head coach games. We've got an analysis of every single second of the game already on the website. We've got we're grading the Canes position by position from the game. As soon as we
have a Corey Flagg breakdown?
Anyway, you got to tell me about this in a minute. But
otherwise, it's just a complete failure.
I'll be writing a column as soon as we finish this show. I'll be finishing my column. That'll be online. We've got Zuby Charles working on 5 takeaways. We'll have the Pro Football Focus snap counts in the morning with grades on how every player, and there was a lot of them in the game, on how they all did. The Pro Football Focus team is working on that right now. So tons of coverage off of this game, obviously every single day on CaneSport.com. Tuesday night, we've got our CaneSport live show. Wednesday night, we've got the Lamar Thomas show. So much to keep everybody engaged. And I'll also throw out there, if you're not a subscriber yet to the website, we've got a special $1 for your first year. So come join us, man.
I'm exhausted listening to that.
Oh man, we're like Team No.
Well, you know what? We all are.
Yeah, I thought I was a busy guy. Good Lord.
Oh,
How does anyone get Gary Ferman on the phone for anything?
Nah, man, we're grinding every minute of every day.
So you know what we're going to do? And that is an appropriate time to put our first show down for the night. We've been going at it. Thank everyone who is watching. Gary, scroll back to the comments. Like Chad mentioned Corey Flagg.
Yeah, what's up with Corey Flagg real quick?
Obviously, Bruce, I'll see you again very shortly.
I have no idea. Not to cut you off, Dave. I didn't see this coming. I watched the game. I didn't say, hey, Corey Flagg's a problem, or this particular guy is really going to ruin the whole season. But lo and behold, we got on here, we're doing the show, and like I said, this might be the father of Corey Flagg's backup in here just going nuts. But it was multiple guys.
They were pounding the chat on Corey Flagg.
Yeah, it might have been his whole family of the backup just going nuts in here by Corey Flagg.
Gary, give him an A- and let's see what the reaction is on CaneSport.
Yes, do that, please.
Give him an A-.
All right.
Complete meltdown.
Yeah, you want to load up some subscribers. Tell them, you'll get plenty of subscribers if you talk about Corey Flagg, at least from the bunch we had today. But I do want to thank everyone who commented. We really do appreciate that. Chad, thank you so much for really helping us with our first show. We cannot thank you enough for your input and your knowledge. Gary, get back to work. Stop screwing around. Bruce, go make some more money. And on behalf of everybody here, our CaneSport Postgame Show, edition number 1, we'll do it again. Let's say 3:15, 3:30 approximately Eastern time next Saturday to review the Canes against Southern Mississippi. And again, we appreciate all of you, and we'll talk to you again in a week. Take care.
See you tomorrow morning.